Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Convos on Campus. Today's episode will be with one of the brightest minds in
الله
KAUST,
يسلمك الله يسلمك
soon to be doctor, inshallah,
إن شاء الله.
Fawwaz Elahi from Chemical Engineering.
Yes.
Uh, he's working in the Membrane Center with Dr. Who? Dr.
Ingo Pina.
Dong-
Ingo Pina.
Ngu-
Professor Ingo, yes.
Ingu, yes. Fawwaz is one of my friends, and I always see him in the mosque, inshallah.
Allah.
And a lot of people recommended me to have you on the podcast. So I'm very excited to have you. You did your master here,
Yes.
and
yes.
and now you're finishing off your PhD, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah, yes.
You studied your bachelor in King Abdulaziz, right?
Yes.
Good, good. Okay. So, yeah, anything you want to add to the introduction?
Nothing else, but I'm first of all, I'm really delighted to be here, and I'm delighted for my friends who recommended me for this podcast, and let's see, I'm
Great.
happy to be here.
Awesome. Khalid Al-Hamdan is one of them, right?
MashaAllah, Khalid, yes.
Yes.
Khalid Hamdan, yes. Yes.
Cool. طيب, let's start. So, what inspired you to pursue this field of research that you're doing?
Oh, okay. So there is an interesting fact related to membranes that most people maybe not realize. Like, if you consider Saudi Arabia, for instance, 60 or 70% of the water that we drink is coming from a particular system. I mean, we studied in our schooling years and undergraduates. We always thought that water is coming from desalination. Okay, but with this desalination, it's basically they think it's like a flash distillation sort of thing, right? But in fact, which is coming from thermal processes. But in actuality, the water that we drink is coming from membranes, something through a process called reverse osmosis.
Okay.
Membranes. So membranes is the field that I sort of got interested when I was in my master's, and then I approached Professor Engo about it, and instead of working with water, seeing that how successful it was, maybe we can transfer that success to gas separation. So that's where I work right now with gas separations.
Membranes are very important. They exist almost everywhere, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I mean, you will not be drinking water in KAUST, for example. Like the plant that we have is providing at least 40,000 standard
Liters?
cubic feet, standard cubic feet of water every single
really?
day.
Okay.
So every water that we drink, even it's available, right? So it's coming through membranes,
Membrane.
are modules of membranes that are based on reverse osmosis.
Great. Okay. So what inspired you is, you can say that.
But what
it's
inspired me is basically seeing that how ubiquitous it is and how cheap and reliable it can be, even though it might not get that much attention, but it's still something that affects everyone's life.
exactly. So it's very prevalent.
Yes.
Or very relevant to our daily life.
Exactly. Yes.
That's what inspired you.
Yes. So seeing the success in water, maybe we thought we can do the same in gas. So that's I'm working in gas separation, not necessarily water, but that's the gateway to the
That's
gas.
the gateway. Great. That's very cool.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's move on to the next question. What is the best piece of advice you ever received?
Oh, it's hard to pick one in particular, but I would cite my PI, my professor on this. He sort of told me this indirectly, but he kept emphasizing how the facilities in KAUST will, the facilities and the resources and the infrastructure that we have for research cannot be replaced anywhere else in the world.
Okay.
So there is an element of gratitude that has to be implemented in your research and in your attitude when you are here in KAUST. So I remember this quote. He told me that quote in a very indirect way, but I would like to formulate it this way. So he told me, imagine, there are 1 billion people on this planet who would consider their prayers answered if they could trade places with you. So that's very deep quote. It
Mm.
tells you, it maybe it moves you to that place where you try to think about, be grateful about every little thing in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we complain as students or researchers, we complain, oh, this is not working, this is not happening, this is, and you feel stressed. But at the end of the day, you remember that quote, that you are in a very blessed place.
So someone prays to be in your position.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right.
So it's a
And with the
very
same,
deep message.
exactly the same life I have, they would basically be extremely grateful.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to be, and you need to internalize that. So that was the best advice I probably ever gotten.
Wow. Yeah, that's very nice. You become more appreciative of what you have.
Yes.
Because we take a lot of things for granted.
Exactly.
And we start complaining. And we get in that frequency where it's a low vibration frequency. And then you cannot produce any work, any good results or anything good.
Exactly.
If you are in that place, right?
Yeah, and you feel constantly that you're under stress. But the fact that you always be grateful for what you have, you don't take things for granted, you feel you can produce more. Not only you can produce, you can be, you feel happy, and the feeling of euphoria when something of
Great.
what you do. I'm not saying that I don't we don't complain. It's human nature, but of course, but we always need to remember that this place is a blessing.
It is.
Yes, or this life is a blessing.
Alhamdulillah, it's really great, and you start realizing it more once you go outside.
Exactly.
When you go on conferences, when you go on vacation, when you come back to KAUST, it feels like home, and it feels like a big blessing.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
It's that quote goes beyond KAUST in a way, because in everything.
But I'm just giving an example.
Exactly.
Because it's very recent that I felt this after going out and then coming back to KAUST.
Exactly.
We live in a very beautiful place.
Yes. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
So it applies to every situation you have in your life.
Exactly. Because even when you go to conferences and you meet people, when you mention KAUST, they mention all the advantages. Oh, you're in KAUST, you must have access to this and that. They have this life and that sort of thing. So you internalize that gratitude.
Yeah. Nice. That's Professor Ingu is very wise, mashallah.
He has another quote that I also try to follow, but it's more specific to his research. He says, simplicity is hard.
Right. The only people who can make it simple is the true expert.
Exactly. Yes.
If you can explain it to a child, then you are the real expert.
Exactly. Yeah. So he always says, keep it simple, keep it straight to the point. And he always mentions simplicity is hard.
Simplicity is hard. Yes.
It's hard. Yes. Yeah. And he has quite a bit of experience in industry and has worked with so many people. So he would consider his words wise.
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay. So next question. If you could switch research topics for a day, what would you study?
Oh, okay. I've always been fascinated with astrophysics. So I don't necessarily recall when I got interested into space and planets and stars and black holes and quasars and pulsars and that sort of thing. So I spent quite a bit of my time reading like the latest space news, what's happening with James Webb telescopes, Hubble, and that sort of thing. So
have you seen the NASA just released a black hole simulation?
Yes, it's extremely beautiful.
Have
you seen it? Yes,
I've seen it.
To a detail, and it's very close to the one that was filmed in Interstellar. If you see, I mean, obviously the current one is much better, but you can see the Interstellar also was
one of my favorite movies.
One of my favorite movies.
Really?
Well. It came after I already found my interest in astrophysics, but I never necessarily visualized how a black hole would look like. And then I learned that they actually hired the Nobel laureate, who was here in KAUST as well. What was his name? Sorry.
Kip Thorne.
Yeah, they hired him as a consultant for that movie to help them simulate it according to Einstein's rules.
Oh, like he's in KAUST?
I mean, Kip Thorne came to KAUST.
He came to KAUST.
Yes, a visitor during Webb. Yes.
Oh, did you see him?
No, because it was a year before.
That's unfortunate.
It was unfortunate, but he was hired by Christopher Nolan for that movie. I learned that fact because so it was what you were seeing was actual simulation. So it wasn't just some based on sci-fi.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
not.
what it's
It's
what they
based on
think.
some scientific
It's based on
grounds.
scientific grounds.
You know,
It is close to reality as we could say. Yes. So that thing, and having my interest before that in aerospace and knowing and seeing that like, in simulation was frightening and exciting at the same time. Like, it's something that big
yeah, you are.
could actually exist out there, right?
You're standing. You're standing at the verge of the unknown,
Exactly.
and it's like, how does that look like?
Exactly. Yeah, we don't necessarily have the mental architecture to envision exactly how that thing might be, especially inside the singularity and that sort of thing. But it is fascinating. So
It's cool.
if I want to switch a day, I want to try to be an astrophysicist for one.
Oh, I don't think you're gonna stay one day. You're gonna enjoy it, and then
Yes,
we're gonna lose you in chemical engineering.
I'm not that good in astrophysics, but it's a fascinating field. It might not necessarily have a direct impact, but it shows us where the limit is. So then we can
Pushing the limit of the boundary of knowledge,
exactly
of human knowledge.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Okay. Astrophysics.
Astrophysics would be my choice.
Okay.
Every single day.
Do you think there's a particular professor that you want to work with, or a particular university, or just the topic?
I haven't delved in deep into like who is the best out there, but I always listen to Carl Sagan or Neil deGrasse Tyson or Stephen
Cosmos.
Hawking, Cosmos,
Cosmos, you've seen Cosmos.
both the original and the remake, and Stephen Hawking, and there's the professor from Stanford. If I could work, but he's more of a theoretical physics than just astrophysics, but he has works in black holes and stuff. His name is I don't remember his name, but he teaches the general theory of relativity in Stanford.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I recall who you're talking about, but I'm missing the name as well.
Yes, I'm missing. He had I wouldn't, let's say, a really civil fight with Stephen Hawking. Both of them were trying to explain black holes from their own perspective, and they wrote a book together. And then I don't remember his name, but there are so many videos of him explaining the general theory of relativity and how black holes are predicted from his theory in YouTube for free. So that's
Okay.
so he will be one, for example. I would love to work with him, but yeah, it's mostly from science enthusiasts that I got interested into this field.
Nice.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes, his name is Leonard Susskind.
Leonard Susskind.
Yes.
Susskind, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yes.
I think he had a video where he was explaining some physical concept to a 5-year-old and then a teenager.
Yes.
And then, is that the guy?
I that was Brian Greene, I believe.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, but he's involved in science communication as well, but not as much as Brian Greene or other these guys. But he has a very short, I wouldn't say short, but like completely detailed lectures of his Stanford class on YouTube, and you feel grateful like these something of that knowledge is being explained for free and people. It's I probably understood like 5% of it, to be honest. But
it's free, it's there, but
it's there.
good luck trying to understand it.
Because he tries to make jokes in between, and the class laughs. So I laugh with them just to feel smart, but I don't understand
just
the
to
joke.
feel part of the group.
Yeah, but he's especially the first lecture, you can follow him around. But once he gets deep into the differential equations and the physics and the general theory of relativity, you get lost a little bit.
It gets convoluted.
Yes, there's so many concepts that I'm not yet familiar with. But in general, what his books are quite informative for the general audience. Yeah. So that would be, he would be one.
Dr. Susskind.
Susskind, yes.
Yes, that's good. What is the most bizarre or unexpected research paper you have ever read?
Oh, that's interesting. You know, okay, remember when we do research, like, you get into that point where you feel like you're not adding much to
Contribution.
Yeah, in terms of contribution, you feel like you saw some example of how people dealt with a certain material, and you try to either replicate it or change it slightly. So that's how most of us start in like fundamental research. Incremental increase, right? Contributions, right? But at some point, let's say, I don't know, are you familiar with, like, I think you are, with the graphene oxide, right? The thing, the Nobel Prize winner from the tape. Remember that guy?
I don't.
So graphene oxide is basically a sheet. Graphene is basically a sheet of
Carbon, right?
carbon, like one sheet, and they're supposed to have like extremely high thermal and chemical and conductive properties. So it's considered one of the best materials out there in the world, and even Nobel Prize was given to the one who discovered it. But the thing is, ever since that discovery, people have been adding few stuff on it to incremental to increase the properties, or to see how it might behave in some scenario here and there. Okay. And we more or less do the same with membranes. We have a certain recipe and we try to change it to see if it works for some applications. So I saw this paper that was so what happens in the scientific field is you get not one or two, you get hundreds and thousands of these small variations in the recipe, let's say. So I saw one paper that was, I think they were pissed at this particular at this particular idea in the scientific field, and how it's being exaggerated beyond point. So he said, it's right there in the title, what the effect of bird droppings on the conductive properties of graphene oxide. Bird droppings, yes. And he wrote the paper as if, having bird droppings, basically it was a satire and a sarcasm, and a way to tell people that this is going beyond control, like the way you're doing this with material science. And this was published. It's published.
Do you know where?
It's in ACS Symposium, I believe, in one of the respected journals. So it's not like some hidden. No. It's published in
a legit paper.
It's a legit paper.
In a legit conference.
It's a legit in a legit journal, and a very respected journal, in fact. Okay. It's written scientifically. It has a unique style. It's there to basically as a satire for what's happening in the scientific field. You're not really contributing. You're just adding whatever random thing that you have into this material just to see if the properties change. So that was wild. I thought it was a joke when I read it the first time, but it's published.
That was the hook.
Yes.
They hooked you to read the paper.
Yes.
Right.
And it's been cited, and I think some people do consider that aspect when they do the research right now. That was the weirdest paper I ever read.
Enticing title for the article and enticing content, huh?
Exactly, yes. You would never expect someone to write bird droppings in a research paper, but they did, and it was published, and it was accepted as well by the editors.
Okay. Do you know, what school it was from?
I don't remember that detail, but it was in the U.S. It was either Dallas, University of Texas, Dallas. I might have been mistaken, but I'm not 100%. It doesn't come to my mind right now.
It's American, okay.
It's American, yes, but it was in a respected journal.
Nice.
ACS Chemistry, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna have to check it out after this.
Yes, maybe you need to put it down, just a link, maybe in the YouTube as well.
For sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I have it in my phone. Yeah.
How you like it?
No, I have it just in case, I always remember, okay, am I doing something similar to what these guys are doing? No. I need to change that.
Okay.
My research.
That's great. Okay. What is a simple experiment or fact related to your field that everyone should know?
Okay. So, a fact. I remember when we were talking about things that we take for granted, for example. Air, for example, here. We don't necessarily feel the difference between oxygen and nitrogen when we breathe. Right?
Even though nitrogen is 78%.
Right, and oxygen is 21%. But when we mention membranes, sometimes people imagine filters immediately. Yes, filter is a type of membrane, but it is on a very loose definition.
Basic, very unclear definition
of membrane. It's not necessarily only based on size, so there are a lot of theories involved in it. So the reason I mentioned air is because what I do with membranes, what my membranes can perform is we can separate oxygen and nitrogen from air. So things that we cannot see, we cannot necessarily feel, so to speak, and we can separate them even to that small scale. So the membranes that I work with deal with that size, at that atomic angstrom level. So it's the difference between the size between the two is around 0.18 angstroms. So that's
0.18. Wow.
angstroms. Yes.
So 0.18, that's 0.018 times 10 to the power of negative 29?
Negative 9 meters.
Negative 9.
Meters,
Negative 9.
yes. So it's
Right.
0.018 nanometers. That's the difference between the size between oxygen and nitrogen. But membranes are used, for example, in airplanes, where they use the oxygen-rich gas to enhance the performance
Of the
their
turbine
engines,
engine.
of the engine. Yeah. So membranes are being used in this, and they can perform separations at that level. So maybe I don't necessarily think maybe people know that we are working at that scale of how small things might be. Yeah.
Okay. Membranes come in different sizes, different purposes.
Yes.
So it's very versatile.
Exactly. Yes.
What you're doing.
With the gas, is the smallest that we get. You get reverse osmosis of water and gas at a very small scale. But you have membranes that function as filters. That's initially what we did with seawater, is to reject anything that's big. We use really open filters, let's say, or open membranes, which are called ultrafiltration or microfiltration. And then we gradually go down until we deal with dense membranes, things that you see them, you think they're completely piece of plastic.
But they're separating.
But they are separating.
They are doing some separation.
Yes. Yeah. So that's similar to you remember the nylon that we use to cover our food. Nylon, for example, a bag of chips. It's usually if it stays closed, it never gets dry, or it doesn't hurt
the crispiness of the chips.
Right? Why? Because it's filled with nitrogen. So the moment and that thing is not escaping the chips. Though that nylon is sealing it.
It's confined.
It's confined. But there are some other types which might allow the exchange. So that's at the scale that we're working with, that we try to separate really small gases.
Okay. Cool. Okay. That's great. If you had to teach a class on something you know too much about, but it's not academic, what would it be?
It's not academic.
Yes.
Do you consider astrophysics academic?
Astrophysics?
Yes.
Okay. You want to teach about it?
Yes. I would teach it not from the perspective of equations or physics or that sort of thing, but I would teach it as a form of divine art.
Like at a high level?
Basically, this is, I wouldn't necessarily teach it. I would just, I would love to explain how beautiful the universe is, subhanAllah, right? There are so many, we are really tiny when it comes to the universal scale.
A small piece of dust.
That's exactly how...
just how Carl Sagan...
Yes, let's say a pale blue dot, right? That's that famous speech. So, I mean, sometimes it gives perspective. Sometimes people feel small when you give that, when they see those images. But no, I get inspired when you see those things at this moment. So I would love to at least, I wouldn't necessarily teach, but I'd just make them realize that these things actually exist out there. Yeah.
It would be amazing if we can do a collaboration where, I sit down with you, or you by yourself, and then I film you explaining that would be, I think...
I would love to explain it. It's,
really?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes some of my friends get bored when I speak about these things, but I understand. Sometimes I speak too much about it, but I would love to. But it's, I mean, for example, do you remember that the first image of the black hole that they took in 2018 that was published in April 2018, right? So it was a collaboration of like 6 or 7 years. And the idea had to be developed before that for them to actually work on it. So if you just try to explain how they found or how they took that picture, you have to deal with so many areas of science just to explain it.
It's not just a picture they
it's
took.
not a picture, right?
Yeah.
The picture is what the public sees, but it's when there were. This is the collaboration of thousands of scientists that had to go together into one small piece of art.
Into one small piece of art. Yes,
yes.
It's nice to see when it's a really beautiful thing to see when science merges with art.
Yes.
Right. It's nice when you see engineering applications or something like an incremental contribution, but when you see art, combined with science, this is when you have beautiful and magical things coming out.
Exactly. Yes.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's have let's say like a 1 hour session.
Yes.
Or whatever is comfortable with you, where you talk specifically about this.
Yes, for sure. Obviously, there will be more people experiencing these things, but I'll just explain it from an outsider perspective as well. Something I'm not. This is not the field I'm working in.
But this is what I understand from you guys.
From you guys.
Yes.
Inshallah.
Let's do it.
There's another one.
Can you repeat that for me? Sorry, but I need to have.
Yes, sure.
Exactly.
Right.
Medicine.
Just a second. Right.
Okay. That's awesome. That's very exciting. Okay.
I'd love to.
Okay.
15 minutes now.
Have you ever completely BS'd an answer and actually gotten away with it?
Mm.
No, sorry. Can you repeat?
Why?
I was talking.
No, it won't capture.
It's okay.
Yeah. Have you ever completely BS'd an answer and actually gotten away with it?
Probably, I think all of us done it in high school or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember so many instances in probably like intermediate school or secondary school where
you studied here, right?
Yes, in Saudi Arabia. Yes. Yeah.
Because you were born here, right?
Yes.
You born and raised in Saudi.
Yes, I'm originally Indian, but I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. So I studied in Saudi governmental schools. And
you speak better Arabic than me? Inshallah.
No.
Yeah.
So I got most of my friends were Arabs, so that's how I understood the language or learned the language. So,
but you do remember that moment?
I remember in a math class, in a math test, I believe, or it wasn't a test. It was some sort of an Olympiad. I wouldn't say an Olympiad. It was more of a competition. To get selected for Olympiad, something like that, on that regard. And it was made, and we received this question because we divided the groups, and we have to give an answer to a certain question, and we received something about the physics of optics. But the question was more mathematical, and we didn't have much time at all in our hand, because this was the question that we passed in the beginning, and we had to make a guess from. We had to write a number because they gave us the three digits that we have to put the number, and we completed just without calculation. But based on a rule of thumb, we had put, I think, 126 or something.
Okay.
And the surprising thing is, afterwards we learned that the question that we spent so much time on trying to solve was actually wrong, and 126 was right. It was a complete guess. It was not at all as an answer. We have still no idea how actually 126 is supposed to be reached.
The right answer?
Yes, but it was the right answer. And it was completely baffling. We didn't get selected at the end. But the 126 memory always remained in my head.
Wow, that's crazy.
Similar story.
Yeah.
Once I was in a competition as well here in university, science fair competition.
Yeah.
I was on a team of 4 of us from the same university, school,
Yeah.
high school. And we got a question was, why do we use the handle at in websites?
Yeah.
And I said, no one answered. So I was like, I pressed the buzzer, and when I pressed the buzzer, they were all looking at me, and I was like in silence, and I didn't have anything to say. And that's when I was like, I think it's because we go to the email to the domain, so it's like at that domain. They thought about it and they were like, you know what, you're right. The right answer is the at is the only unique handle or character
Character.
that cannot be used anywhere else.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't actually answer the question, but they considered it
That's,
right.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and we won that round.
That's awesome. These
Well,
things like this happen,
mm.
right? You always remember that because you were under so much stress that you just guessed an answer and somehow it turned to
And
be right.
somehow it turns
And
out,
there is a probability of 1 to the 1,000 in my case for it to be right. And
yeah,
I just happened to catch it at that point. Yes.
yeah, 1 in 1,000. Like you have from 1 to
To
999,
999.
and you just nailed that one.
It happens.
MashaAllah. Yeah, that's good. Okay, moving on. 126. That's crazy.
Yes. Yeah, the 126.
What is an unpopular opinion you will fight people over?
Okay.
We
Unpopular.
are changing gears now into
Yes.
something more.
Social.
Yeah.
Okay. Opinion about what?
I mean, unpopular opinion
Okay.
in
So,
general.
okay. Oh, yeah. I may have one. Nuclear energy.
Mm.
I believe the best
Energy source.
energy source or most sustainable energy source
Mm.
could be, or rather is nuclear energy.
Mhm.
Like the way that's what they were doing in Chernobyl, for example, or right now there are so many in US, in Germany, and also in Japan. But people are so afraid of nuclear energy because of what happened in Chernobyl,
Just because of
of the
the
nuclear
famine
waste.
that happened and the
The
accident.
nuclear waste, because of
Yeah.
what happened in Chernobyl is. Have you seen that show? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, right. So, because of a simple mistake, now that area cannot be accessed for 30 or 40,000 years
Mhm.
because of radiation, basically, right? So, yes, the dangers are extremely costly. I mean, it's not reversible in a human life during a human life
Mhm.
so my opinion is, yes, they used uranium mostly in that nuclear reactor, but thorium, for example, could be a very sustainable alternative for uranium. It has much lower impact on. It has much less, let's say, nuclear waste compared to uranium,
Mhm.
and it doesn't produce CO2. So that's the key, right? So you can produce almost the same amount of energy of, I don't recall the number, but it's more like of a billion or a million or 2 million barrels of oil with one Chernobyl size
Reactor.
nuclear. Obviously, the dangers of oil are in no way comparable to the dangers of
The risk
the risk of nuclear energy
versus
but
oil.
yeah, that's why it's not used. But down the line, I think that's the option that people are gonna go for, because yes, renewable energy exists, like solar, wind, and it's becoming better every if I may say so. But it has a threshold. It has an efficiency that it can never
Exceed.
exceed. Nuclear energy, I think nuclear energy will be the future. Like in 50 or 60 years, you'll see so many nuclear plants. That's the most. I fight people for this.
Hopefully you guys develop some next level membranes to protect us.
Maybe because the first application of membranes was for uranium enrichment.
Okay.
That was the first commercial scale application. It's not used in that regard anymore because there are some other better ways to enrich uranium. But power is. I'm pro-nuclear, if you say so, and the people are not on my side when I mention that. Yeah, and I understand why. So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, It's your opinion, it's what you believe.
Yeah.
You fight for it,
Yes.
just like what Oppenheimer did, right?
Yeah. Well, well, he did know the
Yeah.
to say the least.
And then he saw it.
Yes.
And that's what was documented in the.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
history.
Yeah. Okay. So if someone narrated your life, whose voice would you choose?
Oh, okay. Every single day. Yes. Hey, his voice is incredible.
It's incredible. It takes you on a majestic trip.
Yeah, exactly. And he's so many documentaries with his voice.
Once
Right.
in a lifetime.
It's exactly right.
I don't know how he said it, but
As I maybe because there was I should call it a series. I don't know, but
mhm.
it's on YouTube. It's called The Universe. They're like a series of 30 or 40 episodes, and it explains every day. It takes like an aspect. And one of the days, the narrator was Morgan Freeman. That was
Oh,
the first time I got introduced into the voice. I was maybe in high school at that time.
okay.
I was like, "Who's this guy?"
Who's this guy?
Yes. And then I watched some of his documentaries, and I loved his voice.
Yeah, he has a very interesting biography.
Yes.
His life is very interesting. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you read it.
No,
But,
no, but I know that he because I remember his. I don't remember the name of the movie, but Shawshank. I don't remember.
yeah,
the name.
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption. It's one of my
One of,
favorite movies.
one of the greatest movies of all
Movies.
time.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember that movie. But the thing is, because there his voice was different, right? So I couldn't
You couldn't.
link. Oh, is that him? Wait, let me listen to the guy right now. And but
And
I don't know
so-
much about his life, but I love his voice.
Oh, you should check out his
Really?
biography.
Yeah.
Very interesting life. He came up from essentially nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. Check out his story and biography.
I will definitely.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. Yes.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the last question.
Mhm.
What is a movie scene that lives rent free in your head?
Oh,
It keeps on playing.
doesn't stop, huh?
Movie scene.
Can I mention two?
You can.
Yeah. So my single piece of favorite cinema is probably that docking scene from the Interstellar movie when they escape that planet, and then what is it? Man's planet. Yes, and Dr. Man basically maroons them, and he's lied about the fact about that there's life form on their planet, and then he goes into the ship, and that scene when the ship explodes, and then Cooper, Matthew McConaughey's character says,
Yeah.
I think the one that was with him, Anne, I think, she asks him, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Docking." From that scene until he docks into the main ship, if I want to call it, and the soundtrack is my favorite scene of all time. I always recall it.
He's just
And
docking.
Docking, right? Docking, and then spin. That when the cue
When he-
starts.
Yeah, when he times it.
in
That
time
was.
sequence. That was.
It really makes you feel the moment, right?
the moment you're there, and the music is enticing and everything. So yeah, that scene is my favorite scene of all time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you are essentially in free space, and your life is on the line, and it depends on this minute force and moment change that you have to just exactly dock in the right momentum.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. I know it's a movie and that's supposed to happen. This is CGI and all, but it's the shot and the way they led up to that scene is incredible.
It's a piece of art.
It is
Yeah.
a piece of art. Yes. Yes. So
What's the
that's-
second one?
I love the series of the Lord of the Rings,
Mm.
and the third movie. I watched those movies so many times. Third movie when they, when Sauron attacks Minas Tirith,
Mm-hmm.
and the race of men require aid, so those are, and then I don't remember the name of the king, the character, but then the king shows up with horses lined up like from the left side like that, and then he gives his speech, and then they basically just run
Start
over
marching.
marching. That scene is and the music is amazing. You consider this was filmed in 2002 or 3, CGI wasn't that good at that time, right? But the scene still is
It's still a piece of art. Yeah.
still a piece of art. It's
You know, I haven't
very,
watched it yet. I should check it out.
it's very, consider this is 25 years ago it was filmed, or 24 years ago. No, 2002, I think. I don't remember. But it was, for its time, it's extremely,
It's some next level.
some next level, yes.
Mhm.
And I remember when we watched it when we were kids, like, how did you film those giant elephants? How did you film this?
How did you make that happen?
How did you make that happen?
Mm.
Is this real? When I was young, I thought it was real because I thought they actually brought all of those horses and then those orcs from the other side. So
Yeah.
that's how good it was. So that scene always rent free.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for joining today's episode.
Thank you so much. I loved
It
talking.
was a pleasure to have you, Fawwaz,
Thank you so much.
and wish you all the best in your wrapping up your PhD.
Thank you so
inshallah.
much. Thank you.
And if people want to find you, you live in building 4 or
Building
level 4 seaside,
right wing.
right wing.
Yes.
That's amazing. Thank you guys, and stay tuned for future episodes where we dive into more interesting topics, more interesting people, and yeah.